Hey y'all, this is Jim with Sunrise Farm. Welcome back to today's video. Today we are going to be building a brooder. What does that mean? Well, as you might guess, that means we're getting chickens. Today is January 13th, and we'll be getting chickens right about a month from now. So so what I've done on this brooder, I've got some lumber already cut. And my son, who's right behind the camera, Josh, is going to help me. There you go. He probably got a thumb in the shot. But we're going to start building this brooder. This brooder is going to be a 4x8 brooder, basically a sheet of plywood size brooder. Yes, that's a pretty big brooder, but we intend on doing upwards of 100 and 200 chickens at a time when we move into meat birds and so forth. The chickens we're getting are egg layers, and we're going to be getting 60. The McMurray calls them red star, but the Isa brown, they're large brown egg laying birds. And so we're going to get started with this brooder. Now I will say in advance, I've never owned chickens in my life. I've never built a brooder in my life. So what I'm doing here is taking a mix of some articles I've read and researched. I am taking some other YouTubers' versions of building a brooder, because completely there's so many variations to doing this based on your needs, your size, your logistics of availability, where you're going to put it, and all this other stuff. And so I've taken that along with my 35 to 40 years of construction experience, and what you're going to see is my own design based on those number of factors. So we'll go ahead and let's get into it. All right, so off camera we went ahead and built our 4x8 frame. I'm going to build two of these frames. This is the first one. This will be the base where the chickens will run around on, and then I'll build another one just like it for what will be the roof or the ceiling, if you will. And then we have our legs that we have fabricated. The legs are just simply 2x4s with a shorter 2x4 nailed onto it, and that way when we stand them up, we already can put the frame resting on these 2x4s to help us, and it assures that with all these being the same measurement, that the frame is the height we want it to all the way around without too much argument and stress over it. These blocks are 21 inches. Basically, I designed it to where the brooder would roughly be 24 inches off the floor. Again, through various researches, I mean, this can be anything from a simple plastic tub on the floor of your house to, you know, big old chicken tractors that are brooders. In our case, I'm trying to build it in a way that's convenient to clean it, and a way that's convenient to hold, you know, the heat lamps and the waterers and the feeders, and also make it at a level that we can deal with it as we expand our flocks and our ways of meat chickens and layer chickens. All right, so the brooder is going to roughly stay in this area, but it will be pushed against the coop wall. Even though we haven't built it yet, this half of my shop is going to be chicken coop. Yeah, we still got a lot of stuff in the way, and that'll be the next project after the brooder. The chicken coop is going to be roughly 16 feet by 16 feet, or roughly half of this shop, this side of my shop. So I'm building it big enough to house around 200 chickens, which is the first mark we're going to. After that, we'll just wait and see. Half the family wants to go up to at least 500, so maybe we'll have 500 layers over the next year or two, who knows. But at any rate, we're starting with the 60 we're getting. We're going to get through those, get them into the coop, probably order another 60 or so right off the bat, just so they're not too far apart in age, and then have at least 100 plus coming on board for egg layers, which will occur sometime late July, early August, something like that, by the time they get to egg laying production age. So we're gonna carry on. We're gonna put these legs on our frame, and then after we put the legs on, then we'll probably put the plywood on, and then we'll make another frame and put the frame on the top, and then we'll start dealing with the sides and interior part. So stay tuned, we're gonna keep going. All right, so we got the frame standing up. We've got a piece of plywood merely laying in here at the moment until we get the top on, so we get everything square, and then we'll nail the plywood down, as well as putting a piece of plywood on top, both to keep the chickens from flying out accidentally instead of me putting hardware cloth on, but realistically it's for a shelf where we can store whatever we want. So our frame, we built the next frame, which is exactly like the base frame. And we've also, at each corner, temporarily mounted blocks to help us hold the frame in place on top. So that way, when we put the frame on, we're not sitting there fighting ourselves. We can have it held in place while we secure everything. All right, well, we're gonna go ahead and get the top on. Well, all right, folks, that was pretty easy getting the top frame on. Now we just need to put some plywood on the top and some plywood on the inside here, or get it tacked down. I'm going to use my industrial crown staple gun. It's the best thing I know to put down 1/4 inch plywood, which is all this is. I'm just building it out of 1/4 inch plywood. We will also be putting some additional support legs on the front, which will also be support for the plywood. At the moment, it may seem a little flimsy, but honestly, once we put the other frame members on for support and the plywoods for the back and the sides, it'll sturdy a lot up. The whole thing will sturdy up. For every piece of plywood you put on, it's exponentially more structurally sound. However, I did forget to do one thing that I meant to do for me personally, building this bottom frame. So I'm going to take this piece of plywood out a quick minute and do it. And that is, I wanted to put on the bottom side of this frame, I wanted to put 2 long lateral pieces. And the only reason for that is that I may periodically move this out of my shop, put it out on pasture or something like that there, just outside when it's real nice around here, or just for simplicity of cleaning it. And so those 2 cross members are going to be for my pallet forks on my tractor to pick it up. So anyway, we're going to do that real quick, and then we'll get back to putting this plywood on and just keep on going building this brooder. You'll see how it all kind of comes together.
And cut.
All right, folks, it's actually a couple days later from when I started. I intentionally waited till it was the weekend. Today is Saturday, December 18th. Why did I wait? I don't know if you can really, yeah, you can probably tell the drops coming down through the camera there. It's raining out here and we have rain all day. So I figured what's better than an inside project for a rain project. So let me just start by giving you where I got to with the brooder so far. I went ahead and put some 45-degree corners in the back. That is so, I read a few articles and even by what people say, I didn't want to create hard corners for the chicks when they're very young to have a place to potentially get trapped and snagged. I'm building these side walls. These will only be held in with a couple of screws each. A piece of plywood will go on the inside of it because I'm going to put several layers of bedding in there. Both ends will be the same. This top opening right here will just be a framed in piece of hardware cloth just for some air circulation and viewage. And then on the front here, as I pull back out a little bit, will be another removable panel at the bottom with a piece of plywood so I can clean this brooder out. You'll get to see that. And then 2 doors. So stay tuned for that. But also in the meantime, since it is Saturday and a rain day, and my beautiful wife is home helping me, I'll show you how she's helping here on the farm today. Yep, you guessed it, we got a hot mess going on in this place. Say hello to the folks, my love.
Hello.
See, she is hot and heavy doing some seed starting trays. She's gonna be doing about 12 of them today, and that's not even half of what we need to do, but that's all I have prepped for. Got one sitting off to the side ready to go. Got all these seeds she's gonna be putting in. Got some more over here. So she's starting a whole bunch. So that's where teamwork, and of course she's inside with better lighting, way out of the rain and a little bit of heat too, so it's nicer in here. But anywho, back to the project. Say goodbye, my love.
Bye.
All right, folks, so let's stop here a minute and kind of give you an update on where we are so far on our brooder building project. So I've got pretty much all the framing completed and ready to go in, and just kind of give you some updated details and nuances of where we're at. So right here in the front of the brooder, I am doing a 2-door system. I have put one in just kind of semi-temporary because I wanted to make sure that, you know, what I had planned was going to work correctly. I have the other door right down here. Now both of these doors are going to get 1/2-inch wire hardware cloth on the back sides of them, obviously so we can see in and have some air movement, plus protect the chickens. The 2 side windows, which I'll show you in a second, will be the same way. This piece here, I only temporarily put one latch on, but this piece here is something that will be coming off because we're going to do kind of a deep litter system. So this will come off whenever we're ready to clean the coop out, and that way I can get in there completely and clean everything out. We're gonna put pine shavings and some leaf mulch and some other stuff in there as the chickens grow and mature before they're ready for the actual chicken coop. And we're just going to let it build up, and it'll become some nice composted material later on. And these walls are 12 inches high. No, I don't plan on making the litter bed 12 inches deep per se, but it might get 6 or so before we clean it out, and it might go anywhere from half a year to a year before we need to clean it out. So there's that. And all the bottom pieces, I went ahead and did 1 foot around inside so that this thing will be completely enclosed, at least up to 1 foot high, to contain the bedding material, just making it easier on ourselves to clean it out. So when you walk over here and we look at the ends, I have 2 windows opposite each other, again for just some ventilation, some viewing purposes. But it also occurred to me, as I showed you already, this bottom panel is only got 4 screws locking it in, just to keep it in there snug. That way I can remove it should I need to clean out the brooder better. But also it occurred to me, I'm going to do the same thing with this. It's only going to get locked in with about 4 screws after the wire mesh goes on the inside, which we're going to do. And that way, if I lock it in with 4 screws and I need to get it, say, a problem in here with the chickens, I have another access to get to them. You know, perhaps one passes away and I need to grab it and I can't reach it from the front, or so forth and so on. So anyway, that's where we are. So we're going to get ready to put the wire mesh on the backside of these openings, and then we're going to secure the 2 ends in, and we're going to put the other half of the door on and check it out, and then all the hardware for the doors, the handles, the other hinges, and so forth. So you'll get to see all of that coming up. All right, stay tuned while we keep going. All right, so I have this piece of black hardware cloth. It is 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch squares, so it's perfect for a chicken coop. I got this, if you happen to see where I was doing my beds for my greenhouse, or not my beds, my tables for my greenhouse. Same stuff I was using for the top. Comes off a 3-foot roll. In this case, the roll is 3 feet by 100 feet. So we've got this piece to cut down for the 2 doors and the 2 windows. And it'll end up looking like this once we cut a piece down, which this piece is for this door right here. So we're gonna get to cutting this up so we can get all these stapled in and then put it together. Now I will stop here a second and say you just watched us cut this with a pair of tin snips. You can also cut it with a pair of tin shears, metal shears. And of course I have a grinder, and you can do it with a grinder. My problem with using a grinder is because this stuff is so flimsy and thin that if I use a grinder, I know what's going to happen. That grinder is going to get off target, and I'm going to be cutting all kind of weird angles and places I didn't mean to. So even though the tin snips is tedious, it only takes a couple of minutes to do. Clearly, number of ways to do it. Just thought I'd throw that out there. If you're talking to the screen going, man, why are you cutting it with a pair of tin snips? Now you know why. All right, as you can see, it only takes a few minutes to cut this stuff, even tediously with the tin snips. And he quickly stapled the wire on the inside of the brooder. These right here are 1/4 inch by 1/2 inch. Actually, I think these are 5/8 crown staples for my crown staple air gun. Clearly, you may not have access to something like that. However, just know that whether you have to rent one, because you can rent them a lot of times, maybe you know somebody or maybe you have one. Also at Harbor Freight, they're fairly inexpensive if you happen to have a air compressor already. However, I would highly recommend you put this hardware cloth on with some type of deep crown stapler versus a standard type staple that you could just click on with a gun. Yes, you can put them on with those, but honestly, I've never found those to be as secure. And of course, I want to be able to protect my chickens not only from them accidentally pushing out on the wire and it coming off, which is also part of the reason for putting the wire inside, so I don't have these cavities inside with the 2x4s, but also pushing against it will be more sturdy than if I had it the other way around where they could push on it and push out on the staples. Anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you. So we're gonna go ahead and get the rest of this hardware cloth on the other pieces, and we'll be back in just a moment. All right, so we have completed where I've put in both ends, and we'll kind of show you that with our wrap up, plus you can kind of see it through here. You kind of see the wire mesh on that side, both ends are the same way. They're both just basically held in with 4 screws and just kind of snugged in place so I can remove those panels if I want to. I still have to finish off the hardware on a lot of this, but I'm getting ready to install the other door just to make sure I have everything in operational accuracy. And after that, we'll put on all the remaining hardware that we need to, the other latches, the latch that'll hold the door. And then I'll set up the heat lamps, and I'll show you what I'm doing to set those up. And yeah, so we're almost there. All right, so what I initially did, I have my opening. I determined what I wanted the total opening to be for, to get in here to the brooder, to have room enough to clean it out and all this stuff. There's a small part of it that I made it relatively the size of a bucket on my tractor, in case I want to pull my tractor into the shop or I pull this outside. Either way, I made it, this is about 5 feet of an opening. And so how I determined it is I obviously just cut it in half for 2 doors, because you don't really want one door that long. It's just more cumbersome. And then from there, what I did was I basically took the total distance. I have these about 3/8 plywood shims. I put one at each end, and I measured in between those. And then I subtracted an additional 1/2 inch for the door gap so that I would assure, or at least that is my hope, we'll find out shortly, that I would assure that when I wanted to open the doors, they weren't going to rub on each other when you try to open them at an angle. And so how I set up the measurement for the door top to bottom is I put this in here. I put 2 of these down to represent the gap at the bottom and the gap at the top. And then I had my 2 2x4s laying in there that encompass this opening, 27 inches in this case. And then I measured the remainder to know how long to cut the pieces to put in there for the supports. So this is how I'm going to set up the door, putting it back in. I'm going to, I've got the door just down here, and I'm going to get this door lined up so I can get the hinges on it, and then we'll see if everything works out the way we're supposed to here. As you can see, we'd already completed all the wire mesh on the inside of the thing. I'm about to knock that off, so let me grab it. I still have the one on the bottom. I have some other smaller shims. Looks like it's about what I want. So we're ready to put the bottom hinge on first. I should point out that here's all my hardware. So all the hardware I bought consisted of handles to put on here and on the doors if we want, on these simple gate latches that also will go on the door. I bought one actual gate latch that's going to go for the locking of the door. I bought a carabiner to go in the gate latch lock so that it can't be opened accidentally or by a critter or any other thing that wants to get in here. And of course I got the hinges, and I got a couple other components. I got some chain for the heat lamps and some eye hooks, and we'll show you that shortly. All right, so as you can see, they clearly will both open now. We actually, kind of inadvertent, we actually put these on here just to create a door stop so it doesn't want to go flying in, because it could go another few inches in if you didn't have them on there. You could actually just use these pieces. These were just leftover pieces we had. You could use them as the handles, but we're still going to go ahead and put actual handles on because we've got them. Of course, like I said, we got to just finish putting the hardware on, so we're going to get to it right now. All right. So what you think, Mom?
I'm just wondering, what color should we paint it? That's the big question.
Thought.
Looks fabulous, but
Spoken like a woman. Paint a chicken brooder.
absolutely.
Next, you're going to want to put decorations on that bad boy, too.
Well, I was
Oh,
thinking
my.
that also.
Fellas, help me out. You know, this is just trouble in the making.
She says it, you gotta do it.
Happy wife, happy life.
Look, we've only been married 37 and a half years. When you reach 40, maybe I'll listen. Yeah, fellas, don't take that advice either.
I wouldn't recommend it.
All right, folks. So we've got all the hardware on, the brooder itself. Last kind of install stage for the build of the brooder is the heat lamps. So here is my idea. I'm gonna drill a hole. That's a pilot hole. I've got an eye bolt. I'm gonna screw that eye bolt in. Run it in most of the way by hand and then just kind of finish it off to make it nice and tight. And the reason I'm going to use an eye bolt is simply everything that I'm going to do to put this heat lamp in is going to have a closed connection on it, meaning there won't be any way to accidentally knock it off, whether it's one of the chickens or whether it's one of us, whatever. And so it's just a matter of more of a safety precaution, because these kind of heat lamps here, while inexpensive, they also have a little bit of fire risk to them should they like drop down into the bedding or whatnot. So I want to make sure that doesn't happen. So I bought this thing here. It's a 10-foot piece of chain for planters, just hanging baskets. All the hardware I got from Lowe's. I got these little plastic pot metal carabiners, and so I'm just gonna put one end of the chain onto it. I just had to oblong the chain just a fraction to get that on there, and then put that on the eye bolt like so, and then that way I can set up with another carabiner. And I can put this where I want it to go. I don't want it to go probably something like that. So I'm just going to put it on there. That way I can always adjust up. It's easier to adjust the chain up. So I'm leaving myself a little extra. And I'm just merely going to take the chain and open it. All right, so clearly it's going to have to be adjusted much higher than that for the bedding and the chicks. I understand that. But I just, like I said, I left some chain so that I can adjust it to wherever I need it. Plus, as the chicks get older, I can raise it. I've drilled a couple of holes in the back. I should say my son did. Drilled a couple holes in the back to send the cords out through so we can plug and unplug it from the outside. You'll notice that these come with these hanging clips. I've taken it off. In my particular setup, it's not something I'm going to use. So I'm just going to take them off, set them to the side. Try to put them in a place that I'll remember later in case I ever want to change my setup. Of course, we all know how that goes normally, right? All right, so all I got to do is set up the other side, and then we'll turn them on real quick and check them out, and we'll get back to you in one moment. So all right, folks, so here we are. We've completed the build process of this brooder. I'll kind of go over the highlights and the finer points. I know that even though this is a relatively long video, I know this is not a fully detailed video. Even though it will not help you if you're looking for a detailed of every cut measurement and all of that right this second, I will say, because we're going to ramp up our chicken operation throughout this year with meat chickens and more layers, including into next year, I know I'm going to be building at least one more of these. And so at that point, I will try to do a very detailed video. But of course, doing a detailed video like that takes quite a while to set up the shots and takes time just to build it. This already took a long time, a couple of days in actuality. But as you can see, you got our panel in, we've got our hardware on, got some handles just to help us pull it out when we want to. We got our heat lamps installed, they're on and working. Of course, we got 2 windows on each end and the doors that have the hardware cloth on them. On the 2 ends, if I feel like I'm going to have too many really cold nights and need to cover them, that's not a problem. We'll just cover them with, like a blanket or something like that, piece of plastic even. And then, yeah, so we've already got our feeders here. Got 2 feeders. And then, and that's enough for the initial 60 chickens. I would obviously need more if I plan on putting more chickens in here than that. But I have yet to get the waters, but they're just Tractor Supply about 5 miles from my house, so I'll be getting them from there. And then I have yet to get the bedding. But all of that, when we get the chicks, which should happen around, give or take, around the 10th of February-ish, we'll do an obvious update video then of the brooder with the delivery of the chicks. And so, yeah, so I just want to thank you so much for watching this video and watching us kind of sort of struggle and learn from building a brooder from various plans and just like I said at the beginning of the video, taking my construction background, which I have a tendency to overbuild everything. I'm a little OCD, if you hadn't figured that out. And then from other YouTubers and even online research about space and size, height-wise. And so all of those things together, I'll go over it again. This is 2 feet here. This plywood runner is a foot high because we're going to have at least 6 inches of bedding in there, maybe more. And then the top up here is basically about 5.5 feet. And that way it can act as a decent shelf because this is a complete 4x8 sheet of plywood on top. So I've got a great shelf for storage no matter what it is. And then I think that about covers everything. Around the back where I have the 2 holes drilled for the heat lamps, I have it to where I can unplug it and plug it in from the back because the heat lamps themselves don't have external switches on them. So the only way to operate them is to plug them or unplug them, and I wanted a way to do that conveniently outside of the brooder. So by all means, I would love to know y'all's thoughts on this, comments, your experiences. If you've built one, what you think. If you plan on getting chickens, maybe it'll help you a little bit, I hope. And yeah, just whatever else you have on your heart and your mind about this, I always want to know. I always appreciate y'all's comments, and definitely watching this long a video. If you leave a comment, I will be sure to respond, and I can't even begin to thank you how much appreciation I have for each and every one of you that watches this video. It just blesses my heart and my family's heart. My son's standing behind the camera who helped me with all of this. I know he feels the same way I do. So yeah, so I'm just, again, thank you so much. So until we meet again, take care. God bless. Have an amazing day in the Lord.